Should Germany give the bust of Nefertiti back to Egypt? Obviously there's been renewed calls to do so since they opened this insane multi-billion-dollar museum. So they finally have an amazing new home that's just waiting for her to go there, and I'm going to give you some of the arguments for and against repatriating her, because as a random YouTuber with no Egyptology degree but did recently make a deep dive earlier this year going into the whole story of this very topic, I'm obviously more qualified to comment on this than anybody. So when I made that video and did all of the research for it, I'd like to think I came down in a very balanced way, showing both sides of the argument fully, and I did lean pro give it to Egypt and anti keep it in Germany. And since I released that, 3 people who I know and respect who have watched that video have given me strong arguments not to give it to Egypt. But then I did also find out one reason why I ultimately think they should give it to Egypt, which is kind of the smoking gun, which I'll tell you at the end. So one of my friends from Syria said to me that basically you never know when there are crazy people going around blowing stuff up and deliberately breaking things. And basically said that in a lot of countries, if you want your history to survive, you should be grateful that someone put it in a room in a European capital somewhere, because at least it still exists. Another is somebody pointing out to me the story of the Benin bronzes. Multiple European museums have given some of these back to Nigeria, but it's basically just become a stick to beat everybody with because they haven't gone on display. So everybody just says, oh, don't give artifacts back because they just go into some rich guy's private collection. And the third thing I hadn't considered was an Egyptian friend of mine telling me in their own words that the sentence, give Nefertiti back to Egypt, doesn't really make sense because this civilization no longer exists. There is another country now with mostly different people in charge who happen to live on the same soil, but that doesn't make them them, which for me does kind of differentiate it from other cases like the Easter Island head, like we can just put that back, and the Maori heads, like there's people who are still alive today who want their ancestors' heads back. But obviously you can only give Nefertiti to the modern Egyptian government. You can't give her to, like, you know, a pharaoh or something. And then after learning those things, I was sort of back in the middle, maybe leaning a bit, leave it in Germany. But the smoking gun that made me go back towards giving it back to Egypt is this. Pure insanity, just the dumbest thing I've ever seen. They gave permission for somebody to put the head, the actual original head, on top of this body to, like, make, you know, see what it would look like if she had a body. Even though we know humans haven't evolved in the last 3,000 years, we can imagine what it would have looked like if she had a body. Maybe she's a bit shorter than us, I don't know. But did we really need to risk, like, they let him pick it up with his hands? And so suddenly all of these conversations I had, like, oh, at least it's safe. Well, no, not really. To me, their claim to be a good steward of it completely eroded at this moment.